If I told you that 82% of women share the same secret about the place that brings them the most powerful pleasure, would you want to know what it is? It's something nearly every woman has quietly admitted to me in the exam room, yet very few ever say to the man they love. And that silence has caused many couples to miss something profoundly important. They often say it softly, sometimes with a hint of hesitation. The thing that really makes me climax isn't where he thinks it is. What surprises me isn't the sentence itself. It's how many women say it. It isn't because they don't want intimacy, it's because they know if they speak up he might feel hurt. So, they stay silent for years. But silence doesn't erase the truth. And science reflects the very same thing these women confide. A study of 451 women showed that most of them choose the exact same area of the body as the key center of pleasure. That area contains 8,000 to 10,000 nerve fibers, more than twice as many as the penis. It is the place that shapes her sense of connection, desire, and being cherished. And it's the place most men overlook. For men over 50, who want to understand their partner more deeply, who want her to feel cared for in a way she may not have felt in a long time, this is exactly where you need to be. Before we go any further, I would truly love to know where you're watching from. Leave a simple hello below, and if you'd like to discover something new every week that helps couples over 50 reconnect in warmer, gentler, more meaningful ways, make sure to subscribe. Now, let me explain the one thing so many women have wished their partner understood long ago, from a scientific perspective. What women privately share is completely accurate. The clitoris, often thought of as just a tiny spot above the vulva, is actually a complex three-dimensional structure that is far larger and far more intricate than most people imagine. The part visible on the outside is only about 1/10 to 1/16 of its full size. It is the small tip of a much deeper structure, the way only the top of an iceberg sits above the water while the real power lies underneath. The rest of the clitoris extends along both sides of the vagina like delicate branches, embracing the entire sensitive region. When blood begins to flow into it, the whole structure becomes active, connected, and alive. Women often describe the sensation as something that spreads, warms, or slowly opens, moving through the area with a rhythm that is entirely their own. For many women, pleasure does not come from a single dot. It comes from the feeling of that entire region waking up as if a system is being gently activated. When someone touches only the small, visible portion, they're touching the doorway, but when they touch in a way that matches her natural rhythm, an entirely different space of response begins to open. The study of 451 women reflects that this is not just personal perception. Even though more than half report that internal areas of the body can be pleasurable, the majority, up to 82%, say that the external region, especially the clitoris, is what makes them feel the deepest sense of connection and release. This isn't only about physiology. It is tied to emotion, trust, and the feeling that her body is understood. A woman in her 60s once told me that when her partner approached this area with more patience and sensitivity, she felt herself opening, not just physically, but emotionally. She said it was as if a quiet door inside her had gently unlocked, and she wanted to let him in. That feeling of being understood, touched in a way that matches her rhythm, is what makes intimacy deepen for many women in this stage of life. Once you understand how delicate this structure truly is, it becomes clear why a woman's body sometimes opens quickly and at other times closes within seconds. It isn't because she doesn't want intimacy, it's because the initial touch didn't align with her natural rhythm. And from these small, mismatched rhythms, the 5 most common mistakes tend to unfold. The first mistake, going directly to the most sensitive area too soon. The very first moment is always the defining moment, yet it is also where many men unintentionally set the wrong tone. When a man touches the clitoris directly and firmly in the very first second, the sensation for women is similar to a sudden jolt. Their body hasn't had time to warm up, to open, or to allow blood flow to reach that area. Instead of creating pleasure, early direct contact often causes overstimulation, discomfort, or even an immediate internal shutdown. The clitoris is one of the most sensitive structures in the human body. When the body isn't ready, direct touch can feel like shining a bright light into eyes that were resting in the dark. Women over 50 feel this even more intensely as nerve tissue becomes more reactive with age. What they need first is not stimulation, but preparation, warmth, slowness, and gentleness. Areas like the inner thighs, hips, mons pubis, and outer labia act as the bridges that guide their body from relaxation into desire. When these areas are awakened first, the clitoris begins to wake up naturally from within. And when that moment arrives, even the slightest touch becomes something she looks forward to, rather than something she endures. The second mistake, using too much pressure and too much enthusiasm. One of the things men often believe they are doing right is actually the thing that creates the most discomfort, applying more pressure to create more sensation. Yet with the clitoris, a place packed with thousands of nerve fibers in a very small space, strong pressure doesn't create pleasure. It creates overload. Women frequently describe their pleasure as a wave. A wave never appears suddenly. It rises slowly, steadily. If the touch is too strong or too fast, the body pulls back instantly. And once the body pulls back, the emotions follow. The ideal amount of pressure for the clitoris is always at the lightest end of the spectrum, light enough to feel like brushing dust off a glass screen or gently touching an eyelid to check if it's tired. That is the kind of touch that allows a woman to relax instead of brace. When the touch stays soft, steady, and patient, her body will tell you exactly where you are. Her breathing shifts, her hips follow the rhythm, her eyes soften. Those small signs mean you're finally aligned with her. Many women say that when a man simply softens his touch and maintains a steady rhythm, the sensation becomes deeper than anything forceful could create. In intimacy, subtlety is often far more powerful than strength. The third mistake, focusing only on what's visible and ignoring the entire network beneath. One of the biggest misunderstandings is believing that the clitoris is only the small visible part. This leads to touching one tiny spot again and again, as if pleasure comes from pressing a single button. But a woman's body does not respond like a switch. It responds like a system. The clitoris actually extends along both sides of the vagina, with delicate branches hidden beneath the surface, like petals of a flower beneath the skin. When touched the right way, the entire region responds together, creating a spreading, glowing sensation rather than a single sharp point. This is why focusing only on the external tip unintentionally pulls attention away from what actually creates deeper pleasure. Many women say their most enjoyable moments happen when their partner explores the surrounding areas, the outer and inner labia, the lines that run along both sides of the vaginal opening. These areas, which may seem secondary, are often the very pathways that awaken the larger structure underneath. When the hand moves slowly, widely, without drilling into one spot, her body begins to open in a fuller, more complete way. And that moment always brings more emotion than any repetitive motion could. The fourth mistake, stopping clitoral stimulation the moment penetration begins, a very common mistake, and one many men never realize is stopping clitoral stimulation once penetration starts. The assumption is that the body will continue building momentum on its own. But for most women, this feels like opening a beautiful door only to have it close suddenly. Research shows that only a very small percentage of women reach orgasm through penetration alone. The majority still need the continuation, the steady rhythm from the clitoris to maintain the rising sensation. When the stimulation stops, the internal buildup stops too, and they often have to start over from the beginning, sometimes losing interest entirely. In reality, many women describe their most powerful moments during the blend when penetration and gentle attention to the clitoris happen together. That is when hips, breath, and emotions align. Even the lightest touch, or allowing her to touch herself, while staying connected with you, keeps the momentum alive. These seamless moments are often the ones that linger in their memory the longest. The fifth mistake, silence instead of communication. The most common mistake is also the quietest one, silence. Many men over 50 believe they should already know or fear that asking questions will disrupt the mood. Meanwhile, women stay silent for their own reasons. Fear of hurting feelings, fear of being misunderstood, fear that expressing a desire might sound like criticism. And so both people stay quiet, leaving intimacy to guesswork instead of connection. But a woman's body doesn't follow a fixed blueprint. Some days she wants softness, some days slowness, some days she needs emotional warmth before her body opens. Without communication, the man relies on what he thinks is right, while the woman endures to protect the atmosphere. That quiet endurance often replaces the deeper connection both partners want. Yet, just one small question, light as a breath, can shift everything. Something as simple as, "Would you like it softer? Or is this rhythm comfortable for you?" keeps the emotional tone intact while giving her space to guide the moment. When a man dares to speak and a woman feels safe to answer, intimacy stops being a guessing game. It becomes a beautiful meeting between two people who trust each other enough to be honest. When looking back at all 5 mistakes, it becomes clear that they don't come from carelessness. They come from not yet understanding a woman's natural rhythm of opening. And the beautiful thing is that once the approach changes, her response changes almost immediately. A woman's body is not as complicated as many believe. It simply needs to be guided in the right order. And from here, the 7 most important steps begin. These steps reflect the natural rhythm to which most women respond most strongly. When followed in the correct sequence, her body doesn't just open, her emotions open with it. Now let's begin with the first step. Step 1. Full body warm-up. Before any touch becomes meaningful, a woman's body needs to feel safe and held. Full body warm-up doesn't just warm her skin, it warms her emotions. When the kiss deepens slightly, when the hand glides gently along her neck, her back, her shoulders, her body begins to open with each breath. Many women say these moments make them feel their partner's true presence. And when that presence is warm enough, the sensitive areas naturally become more receptive than any technique could create. Step 2. Indirect stimulation to awaken the entire area. Once the warm-up is enough, her body needs a soft transition before touching the most sensitive points. Areas around the center like the inner thighs, the mons, the hips, and the outer labia are the first doors of the pleasure system. Touching them creates a slow spread of warmth, allowing blood flow to reach the clitoris naturally. When anticipation builds through these wider strokes, by the time the touch moves closer, her body is already far more responsive than it would be if approached directly. Step 3. A gentle touch on the clitoris, with a very delicate rhythm. Only when her body has truly opened should the clitoris be touched. And that touch must be so light, it almost feels like nothing. Light enough not to overwhelm, but steady enough to create rhythm. A bit of natural lubrication from her body or a small amount of gel can make the motion softer and smoother. When the rhythm stays consistent, her breathing will begin to change. That shift is the signal that her body has entered the right rhythm, one that guides her naturally forward. Step 4. Gradually increasing intensity according to her body's rhythm. Once her body begins responding, this is the moment to increase intensity very gently, not suddenly, not with abrupt changes, but by making the movement slightly fuller, slightly deeper, following the cues her body gives. If she leans in toward the touch, it means she wants more. If her breath slows or her body shifts back, simply return to the earlier rhythm. Increasing intensity here is like turning a volume dial, smooth, steady, never rushed. Step 5. Reaching the entire clitoral network. When the central area has awakened, the touch can expand to activate the branches beneath the surface. Soft movements along the outer labia, inner labia, or the lines running down each side of the vaginal opening help awaken the deeper structures. Many women describe their deepest pleasure as not coming from a single point, but from the feeling of the entire region lighting up. When external touch blends with wider strokes, the whole clitoral structure responds as a unified system, growing deeper and stronger. Step 6. Continuing stimulation. When penetration begins, this is the step most men miss, even though it is just as important as any technique. When penetration begins, Her body is not ready to stop the rhythm that has been building at the clitoris. Continuing can be extremely subtle, a light touch from him or allowing her to touch herself while staying connected. When penetration and external stimulation happen together, her body maintains the rising wave. For many women, this is the moment when physical and emotional connection meet most deeply. Step 7. Gentle communication to keep both rhythms aligned. Communication in these moments doesn't require many words, only sensitivity. A simple question, soft as a breath, is enough to keep both rhythms matched. Is this pace comfortable, or would you like slower or deeper? When a man dares to ask and a woman feels free to answer, her body relaxes in the most natural way. That small exchange creates a safe space where intimacy becomes a shared experience rather than something guided by instinct alone. When you move through each step, you begin to see that a woman's body is not mysterious at all. It simply has its own rhythm, its own way of opening, and one very human need to be touched with sensitivity, and with the full presence of the man beside her. And the beautiful thing is that after 50, that sensitivity becomes a man's natural strength. There is no need for speed, no need for force, no need to prove anything. What matters is being truly present, listening with the hands, the eyes, and the breath. Many assume that age diminishes the beauty of intimacy. But from the countless stories I've heard, the opposite is often true. When a mature man understands a woman's body in a gentle, ordered way, the relationship doesn't just improve, it deepens over time. Women over 50 no longer seek the intensity or urgency of their 20s. What they long for, though they rarely say it out loud, is the feeling of connection, of being heard, of being touched in a rhythm their body can easily respond to. And at this stage of life, it is often men who have the greatest capacity to offer that. The steadiness, the understanding, the quiet appreciation they bring, all of these create a space where her body feels safe to open and her emotions have room to blossom. If anything in this video helped you notice something you may have unintentionally overlooked, know that it is completely natural. No one ever taught us about the subtleties of intimacy. But from today forward, you have a clearer, gentler, and deeper path into the emotional world of the woman you love. If you found this helpful, feel free to leave a message in the comments. And if you'd like to receive new insights each week to help your 50s become the most meaningful years of intimacy, make sure to subscribe. I'll be here walking with you through all of it.